John Rashidi had his whole life ahead of him.
We really miss him. We really miss John. We really do.
John was a very successful man, a young boy who have his future bright, and was a treasure to us as a family.
He was a friend to everyone. He was a friend to everyone. It doesn't matter if you meet him the first time or what, he will make you laugh. He will make you laugh. He's a friend to everyone.
John was swimming with friends at Lake Stockton on Monday afternoon. He was using an inflatable pool toy as an aid, but it got caught by the wind and blew away. He went under and never resurfaced. Today, police divers widened their search. The bottom of the lake is an old mine site where depths can vary between 15 and 50 metres.
They are diving in difficult conditions, and if they do disturb the bottom, it does take some time to settle, and at 15 metres, again, the visibility isn't that great, so a lot of it is just done by touch.
But finally this morning, the divers signal they've found the body. A short time later, it's lifted into a police boat and brought ashore before being carried into a waiting ambulance. Yesterday, police praised a group of young girls who swam from the other side of the lake to help. They came within inches of saving John, but were too late.
We also like to thank you, the people who try to save him on that day.
His family also thanked police and everyone involved in the recovery of his body.
It will bring a little bit of closure for the family in that we've now found him, and we'll be able to bring him to the surface, and I guess they will have an opportunity to say their goodbyes.
Megan Birch, GWN 7 News.
Flames more than 10 metres high threaten the Southwest Sports Centre in Bunbury. Strong winds blowing embers onto its roof and the grass areas around it. Firefighters say the huge blaze is suspicious.
Given the time and the place, the ignition or the point of origin of the fire, that leads us to then make sure that we do a thorough investigation.
The fire spread quickly through the bush, trees exploding into flames.
Came down here to the hospital and realised that it's actually bigger than we thought. So yes, pretty scary.
Did a bit of traffic controlling because there was people that kept trying to get in there, and got very dangerous very quickly. So yeah, we had to make sure everyone stayed out of there. If they even put the signs up and people just kept trying to get sweep past, so that's when we got involved. So
firefighters took to social media complaining about the crowds who turned up to look at the blaze, saying they got in the way as fireys tried to tackle the blaze, putting themselves and children at risk. 45 firefighters battled throughout the night. The bush was burning close to Bustle Highway and across from the hospital. Firefighters worried it could jump the road.
There was a high fuel load towards the back of the area, and it took 45 firefighters, as I've mentioned already, with a gallant effort to make sure that there was nothing damaged.
Kate Ryan, GWN 7 News.
Yeah, ready to go? Let's go.
Searching for clues. Officers investigating the death of a 31-year-old man in West Bustleton on Tuesday today scoured bushland beside his Carter Street unit. They also searched the riverbank behind the units, which is only metres away from Bustleton Senior High School. Meanwhile, forensic officers continued their examination inside the building. This is day 3 of this homicide investigation, and the heavy police presence here at Carter Street in West Bustleton continues. GWN 7 News understands the investigations could continue through to the weekend. Police confirmed yesterday that the death was suspicious and that this is a homicide inquiry. There have been several conflicting media reports about how the man died. One said he'd been shot, others that he'd been bludgeoned. But police still haven't confirmed the cause of death. However, it is understood the crime scene inside the unit was very confronting for both the carer, who found the man's body, and police officers sent to the scene. Late this afternoon, police identified the victim as 31-year-old Samuel Darrell Riley. His family released a statement saying he was a kind, gentle person who would not harm anyone. Police have asked for anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Megan Birch, GWN 7 News.
These are just some of the men and women who risked their lives to save Yarloop.
We drove in along this road here and got to this point exactly, and we couldn't go any further because there was wires across the road. I recognised nothing, couldn't work out exactly where I was because everything had burnt out. It was a very, very difficult night.
A lightning strike triggered the blaze here 3 years ago. It tore through almost 70,000 hectares of land, taking the lives of 2 locals, and later a Western power worker died while trying to restore power. Yarloop was left a ghost town.
The family said, "Mum, the house is gone." It didn't sink in then, but when we came back we brought back on the bus to have a tour of our places, then it hit home.
But there wasn't much they could do.
The next day when I came out on the Friday, it was unbelievable what I actually seen. And it's very hard for me to explain and say what it was. It's still very emotional.
And now the community has started to rebuild.
My heart goes out to Yarloop at the time, but I'm very proud of what they did and what they've achieved and what's being done here. It's great to see it.
Last night, the volunteers and firefighters returned, and the community had their chance to say thank you.
Thank you to all the fireys and the community that helped.
They're all heroes to me. Everyone that's a volunteer that goes out and does something like this, we're all big heroes.
It's good to see. Not that we do it for appreciation, but it is nice to see that the community see us out there and that they know that we're there to help them when they require us.
Firefighters across the southwest showed up to pay their respects, and a minute's silence was shared for those who lost their lives. Steph Baumgartel, GWN 7 News.
You work me so hard that my back's near broke.
It's the town that's got the blues. 12,000 people headed to Bridgetown at the weekend for one of Australia's longest running blues and roots festivals. Set in the picturesque Blackwood River Valley, the 3-day music festival has earned an international reputation for showing off the best up-and-coming talent. Alongside a range of international names. With more than 50 artists, 120 musicians delivering nearly 200 hours of entertainment. In its 26th year, the festival continues to provide a weekend of good times and great sounds.
The blues is the people's music, and it kind of speaks to either whether it's about what's gone wrong or maybe celebrating what's gone right.
Something that brings the people together. Like you look around and everyone's just tapping their feet and nodding their heads.
Blues at Bridgetown gave local singer Tracy Barnett the opportunity to showcase her talent more than a decade ago.
To be one of the acts that I've looked up throughout the years of the festival and always admired these acts coming through, and now I know somehow I ended up one of them.
Even the local police showed off their talents.
Oh, what a night.
Laura Thomas, GWN 7 News.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's home from work we go.
The Great Rebuild. Prisoners are picking up the pieces at Gnomesville. It's a major operation that's been in the works for 2 years. Now low security inmates from Bunbury Regional Prison are bringing order to the quirky community. Any broken or injured gnomes will be removed, and any gnomes that are attached to trees and plants will be relocated.
We need to fence the area. We need to keep the gnomes under control. They tend to wander into private property just because they can.
And that's what 6 prisoners have been busy building this week. Teams of prisoners will be here every Tuesday for the next 6 months, cleaning up and fixing the Gnomesville population. And it's no easy job, with more than 7,000 gnomes and hundreds of little villages.
We hope to put a bridge in across the creek, and then we can maybe stop perhaps some of the flooding that's occurring and taking a few gnomes down the creek a bit.
In July, the gnome community was rocked by the Great Gnomesville flood of 2018. Wild weather left the town underwater after the local stream burst its banks. Many of the gnomes and their homes were washed away. Several gnomes drowned in the floods, while others were left fighting for life.
Unfortunately, we've had the terrible job of removing some of the deceased gnomes, and there's also a few injuries from the flood.
We're going to look into swimming classes next year. I think that would be a great thing because a lot of them had trouble swimming.
After the cleanup is complete, teams will still visit Gnomesville once a week to make sure it's kept tidy.
If the prisoners are available to do this stuff, it should be done more often, and we appreciate everything they're doing for us here.
Laura Thomas, GWN 7 News.
WA's Juilliard celloist Anthony Albrecht is bringing Bach's classical tones to the bush. He was moved by the recent tragedy in Margaret River and hopes his music will bring comfort to those who are grieving. It's his way of trying to help, reaching out with his music to people who wouldn't normally get the chance to experience it.
In this particular instance, I thought my music might really resonate with the community. Bach is a composer who I think allows people to really contemplate life and also death.
The mass shooting of the Miles family was Australia's worst such incident since the Port Arthur massacre. As a father, Anthony's first thoughts when he heard of the tragedy were of his family who lived there.
There's just so many instances where you just feel, powerless and just so devastated by events happening, but when it happens close to home.
Because of his own experiences with mental health, he wanted to help. Anthony will be performing in Margaret River this Sunday at St Margaret's Anglican Church, and $10 from every ticket sold will be donated to Lifeline. And tickets are selling fast.
As long as they know that they're not alone, people all around the world experience these issues, and the best solution is to share what you're going through.
Christina Simic, GWN 7 News.